How do you define success? This is the question that you need to ask yourself before you can ever even hope to be successful. It's painfully obvious when I put it in front of you, but so many people skip this crucial step. I mean, if you want success in your health, your wealth, your relationships, literally anywhere, the literal first step is that you have to define what success means to you. The to you part is important. It's not just a vague, well, success is being rich. You have to get really granular, get specific. You have to actually be able to envision in your mind's eye what success means for you as a unique individual. Welcome to Change Made Easy. Changing your habits, routines, and behaviors is hard. We make it easy. I'm Paul Levitin, a board licensed coach who has been helping people just like you create lasting and positive change in their health, wealth, and relationships for well over a decade. Whether you're after more money, a fitter body, better relationships, or anything else, to get it, something about your habits, routines, or behaviors has to change. It's that simple. Now, let's make it easy. Tony Robbins said that success without fulfillment is failure. And that's why it's so important for you to define success. If you don't take the time to really know what you want, you'll come to the end of your journey and realize that even if you did find quote unquote success by some other metric, it isn't truly the thing that fulfills you. It's success that doesn't fill you up. It is empty success that society planted in your mind. And that's not really success at all. So today, to talk about defining success, I'm speaking with Matt Lupi. Matt is a sports agent, a personal trainer, and the host of the Define Success podcast. After being bit with the entrepreneurial bug at the young age of 11, Matt knew that he wanted to take a different path than the one that was set out for him. He dove headfirst into personal development, which left him with more questions than it did answers. And that's what drove him to start the Define Success podcast, where he began to talk to some of the smartest, most successful people he could find to try to help himself understand what success is, so he would be able to not only help himself, but help more people find it. In this episode, we discuss why Matt's definition of success is different than most people's, how to break away from the herd and do what's right for you, how to build and cultivate self-confidence, and Matt shares his single most important lesson that he was taught by one of his mentors and what it means to have the burn. So definitely listen up for that and enjoy this episode with Matt Lupi. How do you define success?
It's a great question. This has been a huge topic for me the past few years, honestly. I started my podcast about 2.5 years ago called Define Success. And really the ultimate goal is to find what success means for individual people. Success is different for all of us. And for a long time, I was thinking success mostly means progress. You can be successful today if you want to. And if you take the proper actions, you can find success in the day-to-day. Success doesn't have to be this grand picture 5-10 years down the road. But lately, I've also been thinking success is going against the norm, going against what most people think is correct, going against what society wants you to think success is. This can be in health, this could be in fitness, this can be in politics, this can be in education, anything. We are always confined to a box, I believe personally, and society. And if you're able to go against the norm and find ways to express yourself, your true authentic self, that's success to me.
It's a great definition and different direction than I thought you would have taken. And the reason I brought that up, first question, and I love your podcast. I love everything you're doing. And there's so much alignment between this show and your show. I always say that the goal of this show is to discover what I call the golden thread of success. Mm-hmm. The one thing that ties all successful people together, because whether it's athletes, entrepreneurs, CEOs, moms, just literally anyone, they have found some sort of success. But the key is that success is different to everyone. But what you said about going against the grain is exactly that, counter to what everyone I think would assume in terms of success. We think of success as being the championship trophy, winning the thing, getting the promotion. It is literally defined by what society says success is. So how did you come to the conclusion that it's the exact opposite of that?
we're just always told what to do and what to expect success to look like. Like for myself, I graduated from college a couple years ago, and the norm for someone my age, my demographic, is to go get an office job for the next 50 years, have a family, retire, and live off a retirement fund. Like that is what they want you to think success means. So going against that and challenging that norm and challenging yourself to find success in different ways is going against what 99% of people my age are doing. I think about like this topic, health, fitness. They don't like people don't want you to be happy and healthy because that is going to limit the exposure and the financial return on the drug market, the pharmaceutical market, all of these biohacking tricks that are now like quote unquote become more popular today. These are things that have been practiced for years and years, but they've been flushed out of society because there's some agenda behind it. So I just think about those two key things that it applies to so many different areas of life, but there's so many things society tells us that we should be doing, and that's what success should be. Just be comfortable, and if you challenge that norm and be your true authentic self, then you're going to be successful.
You summed it up right at the end there. Should, something I talk about infinitely on the show, the shoulds. I say in my own life, I don't allow that word to come out of my mouth because I don't believe that there are shoulds, but society creates the shoulds. And I'm curious how you, especially as a young guy, just graduated college, as you said, there is a very specific roadmap that you should take, that you are supposed to, that maybe your parents, your friends, your colleagues think you should be on. And when you aren't, maybe you get judged. So I'm curious, has there been any pushback, or what have been the challenges that you've seen in carving your own path? Hey, real quick, we'll be back to the show in just a few seconds. But right now, I have to ask you for a huge favor. If you're getting value out of this episode so far, take 2 seconds and share it with a friend. I mean, right now, literally, hit the little share button and send it in a text to your roommate or your cousin or your mom or your brother or your sister. Seriously, spread the love. If you like what you're hearing, then that's the best way that you can show support for this show. Because maybe you're like Eliza Kay, who said, "This podcast is both warm and inviting, but real enough to push and motivate me." Or you're like Dalton, who said, "Paul is an amazing host, and his podcast is a must listen." Don't you want to share this awesomeness with your friends and family? Don't be a gatekeeper. It only takes a second. It helps me grow and reach a new audience, and you seem like a genius friend who recommends new, awesome podcasts. We all win. All right, go send that text, and now let's get back to the show.
Yeah, I think you just have to be okay with not being understood completely. This can be from family, friends, coworkers, really just anyone in your life. There's a meme out there of a crowd of hundreds of people and one person standing in front of them and a speech bubble coming out and saying, "No, you're all wrong." And that's sometimes how it feels when you have a goal that not everybody understands, when you have ambitions that not everybody can relate to, a standard that you live by that not everyone wants to hold themselves to. Most people are going to look at you like you're crazy. Most people might try to pull you down. And personally, I've always been asked, like, why do you do that? Why do you do this? And I don't always have an answer for it. It just feels right in my heart. It just feels right in alignment with my goals. And you get to a point in life on a journey of personal development and defining success for yourself that you don't always feel like you need to explain yourself to other people. When someone asks, why are you doing this? You should be so confident and so assured in your own heart and your own mind that you don't need to validate yourself to other people.
Yeah, that's huge and obvious and apparent when you put it that way. We need to be assured of ourselves, confident in ourselves, belief in ourselves, the strength to, as you said, stand up as that one against 1,000 and say, like, no, this is right. I know
Mhm.
everyone else is saying that's right, but I don't think that that is the case. I don't think that that is the truth. I believe in myself and I'm going to do what I need to do. But uh, my question is, again, how do you find that the first time? Because eventually it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you've done it a few times, it's like, no, I kind of see it. Once you step out of the matrix, it's very easy to see that you were inside of it. But it's that initial step, that first time of going against the crowd, of going against the grain, the first time of putting yourself out there that seems so scary. you've carved this life for yourself, 4 years in, 5 years in, 10 years into your personal development journey. It's like, okay, like I just see it's people, everyone's watching Netflix, I'm reading books. You're not going to convince me that Netflix is better than reading books. It's just not going to happen.
Hmm.
But when you are still in that mode of everyone's talking about the newest episode of Squid Game and you're trying to read Think and Grow Rich, and it's like it just seems like the wrong thing to do. How did you initially nudge yourself in that direction?
Man, it's tough. That's if I had the perfect answer for that, I think so many more people would be on this journey of personal development. They would start because the problem with this journey in personal development, mindset, fitness, you don't get immediate returns. You can't start reading a book today, finish a chapter, and your life is not going to change. You can't listen to this podcast right now and your life is going to change. You can't walk into the gym and see dramatic changes in your body. It compounds over time. So I think you need to be in the right state of mind to understand like this is a long game, and that comes with maturity. When I first started trying to dive and dip my toe into personal development, I was 17 years old and I was trying to follow the right people, read the books, and I was so inconsistent because I wanted immediate returns. I was thinking, how cool would it be if I was a millionaire by this age? And then I didn't see progress and I got so discouraged about myself. So instead, when I went on this journey for a few years, it was super helpful when I gained some more maturity. This is when I started to bring more mature people into my life as far as mentors and friends, and seeing that my daily consistency will bring returns. Maybe it's going to be in a couple of years, but that is going to be so much more beneficial than, like you said, sitting and watching Netflix and watching Squid Game rather than reading Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah, maturity is such a good word there. I really like that you use that word. And it's interesting as you're saying that in my head, you're going, okay, when I first started the personal development journey, when I first started working out, it's like I wanted it right now. I wanted to be rich. I wanted to get something out of it. And that honestly goes back to what you were saying in the beginning about the roadmap. It's like, well, why do I start this journey? Because I've seen on Instagram that if I read these books and I do this morning routine and I eat this magic berry, that I will be a millionaire by 23 and have a million
Yeah.
TikTok followers. So we're still following some sort of sort of societally set out roadmap. It's just a new, shinier, flashier, more exciting one. But then eventually, with years and consistency and more time, you start to see that's like, okay, it's not really about that. It's about something else. And that's how you kind of pull yourself back away from that need to always be chasing the next thing. But to get there, as you mentioned, right? It's like the reward doesn't come with time. It's
Hmm.
consistency. And we know that that is, when I talk about the golden thread of success, that's the number one, right? Everyone will say, whether it's an entrepreneur, a relationship coach, a fitness person, diet, doesn't matter. It's like, how do you win? Consistency. So we all know that. And yet we have this human need inside of us to want instant gratification. So I'm curious, in the beginning, especially, what were some of the mindsets that you used, or how did you keep yourself going through those early sticking points when you hadn't had the success yet to say like, okay, like I've seen that consistency pays off? How did you get yourself going when you were just getting started?
I gained a lot of confidence knowing that I was doing things that most people weren't doing. And I wasn't trying to play a comparison game. I was just trying to validate to myself, I am doing the right thing for myself. And I think of two examples here. Number one, during the COVID years, 2020, 2021, this is when, I was a college student. We weren't going to class in person. We were sent home. You had all the time in the world to do whatever you wanted. Most of my friends, most of my colleagues at the time, they're talking about, again, watching the Netflix and binging and eating food, whatever, just sitting at home being lazy, which is fine. I mean, that's what most of the society did. But for me, this is an opportunity for me to dive fully into personal development. This is when I bought my first course on personal development topics. This is when I started reading more books. This is when I started to go outside and go for walks again. And all of these different things would compound. And every single day I thought to myself, I'm doing what most people are not doing. And I gained a ton of confidence just knowing I am different. My mindset and my goals are different. I'm actually taking different actions. And the second example I think of was my senior year of college. This was 2021 into 2022. And my lifting coach at the time, we lived right down the road from each other. We got up at 4 in the morning every single day without fail and walked to the weighted vest for about 45 minutes. And every single day we're walking around, there's nobody awake. The lights are off in apartments and houses around us. There's nobody passing us on the streets. This gave us a lot of confidence that we are starting our day and starting the action to create a successful day. We're doing different actions than most people. And that just compounded over the entire day. Like I had to go to bed earlier to get enough sleep. I had to be productive in my day to get enough work done. So, really just gaining a lot of confidence and knowing like I am setting myself apart from the standard of my age and the standard of my peer group. That was what really helped me really dive into this in full pursuit.
That's great. As they say, if you want to have what other people don't have, you have to do what other people aren't willing to do.
Right.
And the sad reality is, like, I would love it if this stuff was the norm. I would love it if everyone was just reading personal development books and going out for a ruck first thing in the morning and working out 4, 5, 6 days a week and eating healthy. But the sad reality is that we know that average is actually below average. The average person in America is overweight, unhealthy, has heart problems, is verging on diabetes, and it's just not a place to be. So it's a very simple thing to think, like you said, it's like, well, I'm just doing what most people aren't, and that can be a cool guiding light. It's interesting. You mentioned during COVID, I was the same way. Like I came out of 2020 the best I've ever been,
Yeah.
100%. I had nothing but time. I worked out twice a day. I went on long walks. I meditated. I read. I devoured courses. Every course that I wanted to go to that normally was in person went online. So I was taking every weekend, I was taking a course. And not, again, this is, obviously privilege. I did not have kids. I had, I had a job that was paying me to stay home and a lot of other things that went into that. But I know a lot of people in the exact same scenario who were drinking a bottle or two of wine every night, who are
Mhm.
ordering from Uber Eats rather than cooking their own food. So, we always have an opportunity. We always have a chance to make a decision that's better for ourselves. And as you said so eloquently, just following the crowd usually is not that thing. So I really love that. And my question though, so we've talked a lot about you already, but something that is so powerful that you have is what I have, which is the perspective of having talked to thousands of people. So being a personal trainer, I always say really helped me grow because it's like I was training people and seeing what happens in real time with hundreds and hundreds of clients. And then on top of that, you have the podcast, which you host a podcast just like me where you interview successful people. So you get to see a broader span of what is success like? What are these golden threads? So I'm curious from all the people that you've interviewed, maybe the people that you've worked with in the gym or anything like that, what are some of the common threads of success that you found amongst the entrepreneurs, the CEOs, and the hyper elite people that you talk to?
Yeah, it's a great question. I always think about this often because you're trying to find that golden definition of success and that common denominator between everyone, which is so difficult to do because if you interview like us talking here, this is a completely different conversation than someone who is 60 years old. They define success much differently. So I wouldn't say there's a common denominator as far as like habits or a mindset, but one thing that successful people all share is what one of my mentors calls the burn. And the burn is what is that one thing that helps you show up when you don't want to? And what is that one thing that helps you show up the day after you win? Okay, this is much deeper than motivation. This is much deeper than discipline, even. This is something that will get you out of bed. This is something that will keep you going no matter what is happening. And everybody's burn is different, but everybody has a burn. So that burn can be the loss of a loved one. You want to carry on their legacy. The burn can be a rejection that you face in the job market. The burn can be wanting to just be the best version of yourself. Everyone has some underlying denominator between them of what keeps them going, what pushes them forward. And I would encourage everyone listening to this, try to figure out what your burn is. It's not rocket science, not rocket science. You probably have a general idea of what your burn is, and you probably think about it, but you can start to think about this every single day. So you don't feel like taking action. You don't want to get up, or when you feel seduced by success, you get one big win and you don't want to keep going. Think about the burn. Think about why you started. So that's something that I've always noticed between successful people. Like one person I interviewed a few months ago, their goal is just to donate as many meals to underprivileged countries as possible. That's their burn, is helping people. It's much different than someone that's just trying to build a huge e-commerce empire, but they all have a burn.
What's your burn?
My burn is to be the person that I know that I am. I'm still working on it. So I'm working closely with this mentor, and we're trying to refine and fine tune what the burn word by word is. Um, but I have a lot of self confidence and self belief in myself and my goals, right? And my burn is to allow the people around me, the people I care about, to see that same burn. So they believe in me, they trust in me, they follow me, and we can all achieve great things together.
I appreciate that. And it's always a work in progress. And it's very similar to your why. We talk about that a lot on this show, but I really like the distinction of what is going to get you up in the morning the day after you have a big success. I think
Yeah.
that one, it was really my eyes popped when you said that, because it's so true. It's easy when you want something, when you want to lose a lot of weight, when you're broke and you need to make money. You have a real push, something that you're like, okay, I got to get this done. But all of a sudden, we start to taste a little bit of success, and we take our foot off the gas a little bit, and that's when we backslide. So having that thing that's not just going to drag you forward out of necessity, but the thing that even when you have that success, when you have that initial bump, that you're still going to be just as motivated by it before and after. So I really appreciate that. And when you talk about, being the person that you want to be, or that that you're capable of being, you're doing with your podcast, what you're doing with your social media, your Instagram. I love your posts and everything like that.
Thank you.
You're doing the thing by doing it, right? Like you just said, it's like just being the best version of me, being the person who I know that I'm capable of. So when you think about who you're capable of being or capable of becoming, what are some examples that you follow, and what does it mean to you to lead by example?
Leading by example is everything. This is how I lead. I'm not a very vocal person, point in your face, tell you what to do. I don't agree with that. I think some people are great at doing that, and it takes a special person to respond to that well. So that's not always my cup of tea as far as leadership goes. Leading by example is everything that I strive to do. Leading by example means just showing up for yourself, being the standard, holding yourself accountable to the things that you say you're going to do. What helps me with this is I never want to tell someone. This is from the documentary The Last Dance. Michael Jordan is on Netflix. Everybody was raving about it a few years ago. Michael Jordan said to people, I will never tell someone to do something that I can't do myself, or I've not done myself. And that stuck with me so much, because if I were to say to you, Paul, like, hey, go do this, go do that, and then I've never done it myself, like, who am I to say that? You're going to look at me funny. I'm going to feel not confident myself. So that is part of leading by example, like being the standard, doing the work yourself. And I think beyond that, like the things that help is when you are helping out a client, your family, your peer group, your friends, whatever, and you want them to pursue a life better than themselves, you can't compare them to you. You can't say, hey, you didn't wake up at 5 a.m. like I did, so you're not as good as me. You can't hold them to that level of comparison. Hold them to a standard. And that standard can be, hey, were you organized today? Did you achieve your daily checklist? Did you make your bed in the morning? Did you read? Those are the things, like, what are the little standards you want to hold yourself to and the people around you to? That's everything. And if you do it for yourself, people will follow you.
Yeah, it's the most powerful thing, and we're so aligned in that way. At the same way, when I was a personal trainer, people would always ask, like, "What kind of trainer are you? Are you the rah rah, get in your face and yell?" I'm like, no, I would never do that, because the reality is that's not how humans are motivated. If you could
Mm-hmm.
yell someone into success, everyone would have done that already. David Goggins would have solved every problem in the world because
Yeah.
he would have motivated us off the couch. But we see that that isn't the case. And people ask me all the time, especially couples, but like guys or girls, to say, "Well, I want my girlfriend or my boyfriend to be more involved. Like, how can I get them involved in the journey that I'm on?" I'm like, you don't. You just
Mm-hmm.
do your best, and eventually, they're going to take notice, because you can't not. If your partner is getting better, getting healthier, getting happier, just you exude this stuff. It comes, it shines off of you like a light, and eventually, if you're around someone every day, they're going to go, "Well, that's pretty cool. Like, I kind of want that too." And it's the same thing as a personal trainer. When I was in the gym, I was just working out all the time, and people would just be like, yeah, like I wasn't the trainer sitting around playing on my phone or something like that. I was the
Yeah.
guy working out. So when they came in, they saw that I was walking the walk, and I was, not, it wasn't just all talk. So that leadership by example to me is the most important thing, because one, it's takes the focus into what we can control, which is me. I don't have to worry about telling other people what to do. I have to worry about me being the best version of me, Matt being the best version of Matt. And when you do that, it just illuminates out. So I think that's super powerful. But I'm curious, I mentioned before, if there's any specific people that you look up to, any leaders that have been very impactful in your life, or any specific lessons that you've learned from mentors that have really helped you move forward.
It's a great question. You and I had a conversation a couple weeks ago about motivation and success and the quote unquote raw people. Like, I love the David Goggins of the world. I love the Cameron Haynes and the Andy Frisella, and I listen to them and read their books and do all the things that they're about because I respect their discipline and their level of success that they've achieved in their life and their mindset. There's a time and place for those kind of people, and they will get you fired up, and you can draw some inspiration from those kind of leaders. And those are my favorite people to learn from. But beyond that, I've hired mentors before. I'm working with mentors this year. Like, those people that really get in the nitty gritty with you are super helpful. And one lesson I really took away from one of my mentors a couple months ago that really stuck with me, and this is really what's been driving me for the past few months, is it was about willpower and tenacity, and how we think it's so difficult to have the willpower to say yes and say no to things. But my mentor basically said, willpower is not necessary when you're in the right environment. And at first I was like, what does that even mean? But he goes on to explain that when you are in the right environment, around the right people, around the right atmosphere, you don't have to have the willpower to say no to the wrong things or say yes to the right things. It's just natural. And you and I are blessed to be in a community. We're honestly in a bubble in Austin here. Most people are like-minded, they're fit, but as soon as you go to a different city in Texas, you go to a different state, the community is so much different. People are probably not as happy. They're not getting as much, nutritious foods. They're not as healthy as far as their diet and their exercise. So we don't always see it in the day to day because we're in a great environment right here. But if you're someone that's in a poor environment as far as the house you live in, the job you're at, the fitness community you're in, it is extremely hard to make the right decision. So that really stuck with me, and it makes me push myself to get into, better, stronger groups of people that are going to not, it's not to say push me to do the right things. It's just going to come naturally.
100%. And as you said, I like the motivational stuff. I read David Goggins. I listen to the podcast too. They're fun for me. But the thing that I think is important for people to realize is that everyone is different. And that's the
Yeah.
thing, is that we have these people who are like high energy, high motivation, the drill sergeant yelling at you type of thing. And that does fire some people up. But for a lot of people, it pushes them away. And that's why, and I think that's important to understand, because it's knowledge of self. It's like, if you're looking at that, you're like, well, these guys they're firing everyone up, and they're telling just do it, just do it, just do it, and I can't just do it. Am I broken? Am I less than? Is there something wrong with me? And I think it's
Mm-hmm.
just a knowledge of self to know, like, that's not the motivation style that suits me, and that's okay. But your point about willpower is so powerful. One of my favorite books of all time that I recommend everyone read, and if you haven't read this book, Matt, I definitely suggest it because it will help you as a trainer in your career. It's called Willpower Doesn't Work. And that's the exact principle of the entire thing, is that we think that big change is made by relying on willpower. Just grit your teeth and bear it, just man up, just do it. But the real way that most people who find success is through curation of their environment. It's by putting themselves in a better environment. So that's the moving to a different town where, like you said, here in Austin, there's a huge health and wellness community. So every Saturday morning, there's a group workout. So Friday night, I don't feel as inclined to go out and drink because I'm going to be waking up at 8 o'clock in the morning and going with 20, 30 guys and girls to have a run and then coffee in the morning or something like that. Putting yourself in that environment. And then there's also curating your environment. And these are the ones where you hear people talk about, like, bring your gym shoes to work, and make sure that you have your gym shorts folded on the bed the night before you go to sleep. And it seems almost silly and cliche at this point, but it actually has a huge effect on us, because, like the title goes, willpower doesn't work. So if you're just trying to force your way through it, you're playing the game on hard mode, and it's already hard to work out. to read more books, to do whatever the thing is. So by curating your environment, so for me, that's leaving my book on my nightstand
Mm.
so that when I put my phone down at the end of the day, which I try to leave my phone not by my bed. So I put my phone down across the room so that one, I'm not playing with it as I go to sleep, but two, when the alarm goes off in the morning, I have to get up and turn it off so that now it's like, okay, I'm out of bed. I'm not going to go right back to sleep. But now when I get into bed, my book is right on my nightstand. So now that I don't have my phone and I'm looking for something to do until I fall asleep or something like that, my book is right there. Could I, in that moment, after I put my phone down, go to my bookshelf or go find a book to read? 100%. But I'm reducing the friction and making things easier to where I don't have, yes, there's still the willpower that I need to pick the book up and actually read it, but it's reducing the amount that I need. So creating those little environmental tricks by curating your environment and then putting yourself around the people who are in the same mindset as you, putting yourself around people who are focused. If your goal is to be an entrepreneur, go to entrepreneur meetups, go to networking events. That, as they say, the people you're around, the 5 people you spend the most time with are who you become. And studies after study after study will show us that. So I really appreciate that takeaway, Matt, that you offered us. And I'm curious. We mentioned willpower not being maybe the ticket to overall success. Something that everyone who wants to change is thinking about is building habits. So how do you look at habit building if it's not sheerly an act of willpower?
Yeah, habits are tough because there's no everybody hears like it takes 21 days to build habit or 60 days. There's so many different studies out there. Like we never know how long it takes to form a habit. I think habits need to be aligned with your current goals and what you want to be, who you want to be as a person. If you just set out a goal to say, or a habit to say, I'm going to meditate for 30 minutes every morning. Let's say you've never meditated in your life. You don't have a desire to meditate. You might know the benefits, but there's no alignment there, right? It's not for everyone. That first session, you might not make it the full 30 minutes. You might get frustrated, and the next day you're not even going to do it. So there needs to be some sort of alignment of, hey, this is meaningful to me. This is why I want to do this. And then you're actually going to stick with it. And I think it's twofold. Like the whole topic of habit stacking and atomic habits, finding ways to easily integrate habits into your life. So if you go for a morning walk, every single morning you wake up, you go for a 15-minute walk outside, you let your dogs out, maybe those 5 minutes after you're reading a book, just 5 minutes. And atomic habits also talks about when you want to start a habit, you start with like 10 seconds, 15 seconds, very, very small. Because if I say, hey, start reading a book for 10 seconds, you're going to finish what, like 1, 2, maybe 3 sentences. You're like, that's pointless. But once you get into that habit of 10 seconds, the timer goes off, you're like, I can finish the page. And then once you finish the page, you finish the chapter and you want to finish the book. So there's way too many people out there that are encouraging us to have the perfect morning routine. There's 8 things, it takes an hour long, and you're expected to do it every day without fail. I fell for that for quite some time. And the problem with that is most things won't be in alignment with you. And if you fail to do one, you're going to fail to do it again the next day. And it's just you're doomed. So I would say just start small and make it in alignment with your goals.
Couldn't put it better myself. Love that. Last question, Matt. Same question I ask every guest. If you had one action step that listeners could take right now, today, as soon as this episode ends, as soon as they take their headphones out to start living a happier, healthier life, what would it be?
Be the standard. I touched on it a little bit earlier, but after this episode, I want you guys to envision the ideal version of yourself. Who do you want to be? How do you want to be remembered? What do you want to stand for? What do you want your day to day to look like? And then from there, operate at that standard. Operate, what time does that person wake up? What habits does that person have? And if you hold yourself to that standard, your friends, your family, your inner circle, they will follow you. You're following on social media, they will support you. Your customers, they will come back all the time. Be the standard, amazing things will happen, and you in return will live a much happier, healthier life, because that standard, I would imagine, is going to be at a very high standard. It's going to be happy, it's going to be healthy, and you're going to live a better life because of it.
Success is what we all want. It's why we're here. But your success is for you. Mine is for me. Don't live your life by anyone else's rules. You get to decide what true success and true fulfillment means to you. Now you've heard how Matt defines success, and you see that it's different than the common definition. We also talked about how to build confidence, and you know how to find your burn and use it as motivation to fuel you to get what you need to do done. That is change made easy. To connect with Matt, check out his social media, which I have linked in the show notes. And I also suggest his podcast, Define Success, which I was a guest on and I have linked in the show notes as well. Before you go, I just have to ask you for a huge favor. If you enjoyed or got value from this episode at all, then take a moment and leave a rating and review in the podcast app that you're listening or watching on. If you like the show and you want me to continue to create more episodes and be able to get awesome guests that will help make changing your life easier, then this is the best way you can show support. You can leave a 5-star review on iTunes like Eliza K, who said, "This podcast is both warm and inviting, but real enough to push and motivate me." Thank you, Eliza. Or you can be like Dalton, who said, "Paul is an amazing host, and his podcast is a must listen." Thank you, Dalton. And thank you to all of the over 100 people who have taken the time to rate and review this show 5 stars on iTunes, or the dozens who have left 5-star reviews on Spotify. It only takes a minute, and it helps me grow. It helps me reach a new audience, and it lets me know that this is helping someone, which just feels good. All you have to do is go to the show page of whatever app you're listening to and hit the little 5 stars. Or go to the comments section on YouTube and boom, that's it. And if you really want to show love, take a screenshot when you do it and tag me in your stories on social media at Change Made Easy, and I'll shout you out in an upcoming episode. All right, go leave that rating, and I'll see you back here every Tuesday and Thursday with new episodes of Change Made Easy.